It's interesting because when Eddie House was taking those jump shots initially, Nets were trying to come from behind from a 9-10 point deficit, and House wasn't making those shots. Later on, same situation. House starts making, and the Nets start rallying against this team. He was the impetus in my mind. Nakbar as well. There were two key threes that came at a very pivotal time in that third quarter, and Bojan Nakbar made good on them.
And let's go back even a little further than that. After the half, the Nets had 38 points, so I'm sitting here thinking, oh boy, this is going to be one of those stinkers where they're going to have their struggles to get to 80 points in the full game. And you're right, all of a sudden the bench, which by the way, surprisingly was outscored by the Magic, bench to bench, 48 for Magic, 37 for the Nets. But the Nets, I think, were more crucial with their scoring off the bench, and more energy came from those points.
Yeah, they're trying, and Orlando helped along the way as well. Nelson made a turnover late. They didn't execute necessarily. There was a door opening for them, and they couldn't quite get through it. The Nets did not handle that end-of-game situation any better than they did last night. That's still an issue for Lawrence Frank and company. He recognizes that, and on this West Coast trip, certainly, if they find themselves in a similar situation, it has to improve.
But keep in mind also, Lawrence, I think, felt comfortable enough and putting 3 or 4 guys out on the floor who really hadn't played. And then all of a sudden he catches himself with 2 bad bounces going against him, and he's sitting there, and I'm sure he's thinking, do I want to go back to my starters? And I know he didn't want to, but I'm sure it crossed his mind. But they found a way to get a couple of those free throws to go.
Bob, I think they're in a better state of mind than they were the last time they went out on the West Coast during Thanksgiving week. At that point, their confidence was teetering a bit, and it went the other way in a hurry. This time around, although the schedule is challenging, we know Sacramento at home is a very tough team, although they're not having the kind of season that they anticipated having, and some underachieving teams on this trip, including the Los Angeles Clippers. The West Coast trip is the West Coast trip. It's a grind. It's been a grind. Ever since I've been doing net games the last 13 years, they struggle on the West Coast. Even in good seasons, it's a challenge. Let's see how far this team has come, judging off what they do on this 5-game stretch.
I agree with you. And the last 11 games have been great, but how about just the prior 4 games to get ready for a trip? You lose a game like this tonight, and you go out on that West Coast trip, and you're kind of second-guessing yourself a little bit. The fact that this week has been very successful now but you never know. I mean, you still have to travel and play the games and do what you have to do, but you have to feel collectively as a group pretty good about this team going out west.